Hello, and thanks for stopping by. I'm Joe Pryor, and this is another tutorial about Odoo's CRM pipeline. The CRM pipeline is an end-to-end management tool that allows us to track the life cycle of an opportunity from being a possible all the way through to being a project, and then also tracking its status as a paid project. We can collect a lot of useful information in terms of collecting metrics for the company in terms of win rate, loss rate, what our revenue is, what our expected expenses are. We can also attach a bunch of excellent secondary data, pieces of data to these opportunities. And you can also filter down by region or by team. So today's video, we're going to focus on creating and managing those opportunities. That's the bread and butter of this particular application. We're going to discuss best practice for creating these opportunities, the best way to do things in certain orders. We're going to talk about advancing opportunities from one stage to the next and the steps you need to take when you move an opportunity up one level, or what you do when you win or lose an opportunity. And then lastly, we're going to close on filtering, grouping, or sharing views across your team. And there's another core piece of functionality in the CRM pipeline tool, and that's the reporting function. But we're going to do reporting in a separate video in order to save time for this particular video. So with that having been said, why don't we go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so we're here on my desktop, and we'd like to go to Symphony's instance of Odoo. Now, it's important to note that you can't just go to odoo.com. That will take you to the vendor's website, and you can, sign up for an account there, I suppose. But you should have gotten an invitation link or an email, and that would have come from me. But it will be listed as coming from, Odoo, the server. And be aware that it's often ended up in users' spam or trash inbox, and we're working on getting Odoo whitelisted. So depending on when you watch this video, that may or may not have been fixed. So please be sure to check your spam box. But you need to go to symphony-advisors.odoo.com. We spent the last video talking about the contacts application, and believe it or not, we're going to spend some time there today as well. But the majority of today's focus is going to be over here on CRM. And as you see, when you get to the CRM application, it will look pretty barren when you first get there, and that's because the system defaults to a My Pipeline view. So this is just the cards or opportunities that either I've created or are attached to me. And you can change this view. You can have some saved views if you'd like. The easiest thing you can do, obviously, is just kind of remove this. And then you see all of the opportunities that are currently floating around in our system. But this can be kind of a lot to look at. The important kind of pieces of geography for you to align yourself with are each of the columns here associate with one of the steps in the 4P process. And so naturally, a card in one of these columns is probably in that column's a step of the 4P process. So land meridian is still, a prospect, and it will, if it becomes a proposal, we'll move it along and all that kind of stuff. Last, we have a column here appended to the end of the 4P process. This is for saving closed, one successfully completed work, and that kind of thing. But for now, let's look at the steps to creating an opportunity and the best order to go through things. And I'll record that here on the screen with you. Okay, so for the purposes of this tutorial, we'd like to create an opportunity, but I'm probably not going to start it here on the pipeline screen. Now, you can create an opportunity here easily enough, but for the purposes of your customer, while you can type something in here, it's better if you have a contact you can already select, because if we run into the issue, let's say we click on Coca-Cola, a lot of things that pop up here, and you got to watch out what you click. So we click one of these top 4, you'll have an opportunity that already exists in the company, a contact that already exists in the company. But if you click one of these down here, you'll create a whole new instance of Coca-Cola as a possible contact in our contact screen, and this results in duplicate, redundant entities. So the first place we're going to go for this example is we're going to go to the contact screen, and we're going to create a contact, a temporary contact that I'll use basically for this video, and then we'll delete it afterwards. So we're going to create the Acme Corporation, and they're a company. That's important when you create your contact tech, whether it's a company or an individual. And because individuals become attached to companies, it's best to create the company first. So when you're coming through and creating your contracts, it's important as well to fill out as much information here as possible. The minimum that's required is the name of the company, but if the more you can put, the better. All right, so now we have all the data that we need for this fake client, and we're going to go ahead and save it. All right. The next thing you add is then you can add the customer. This is the person that you're actually going to be doing business with at Acme Corporation. And then we have a couple of other addresses we can use here, but the most important one for this particular example is your customer. And I'm working with John Smith. So now we're going to be using John Smith at Acme as our as our relevant opportunity. Now, if we had already had an existing opportunity, we could click on opportunities or meetings and see if we had any activity related to this particular corporation or company. But we've done the important part, and now we have a viable contact. Let's pop out of here and head back over to the CRM. Now, as you can see, this is just my pipeline. There's not a whole lot going on over here. But we're going to go ahead and create an opportunity, and the customer is John Smith at Acme Company. And so I know that John Smith, who works as the CFO at Acme, and he's particularly interested, I see it on his social media, or maybe I know him from another opportunity, that he's interested in working on Roadrunner trap optimization for his his first company. So that's all I need to know right now. As you can see, there's not really a whole lot else to do, but the important thing is that when you click on customer, now because we've gone through the effort on the contacts screen to create the existing client and the existing contact, we can just scroll down and come to it. Now, for example, if we didn't have somebody starting with an A, let's go back to Coca-Cola, right? You just start typing in and it'll fill it in on its own. So I can just type in John Smith, and even though Acme Corporation is the first thing that shows up here, the company he works for, John Smith will still pop up. So great, I've got John Smith. I don't need to know how much revenue it's going to be just yet. I can just add it and we're good. This is my opportunity and we're set. Probability is going to be at 0 to start out with, and we're going to go from there. So right now we know nothing about this opportunity. It's North American sales team, but this is a great opportunity for us to look around the opportunity card. So you have the name of the opportunity. This should be something like what you hope to do for the client, because the client's already shown on the screen underneath it. And this gives you a specific contact you're working on. And then on the follow-up screen, you have all the information related to the specific company. And then we have additional stuff down here under marketing. We can figure out where they heard about us. If they contacted us first, we can say, oh, they heard about us on LinkedIn, or they heard about us on Facebook, or we can fill those screens in. Or if there's a personal referral that comes from another client, another opportunity from somewhere else, maybe John Smith was referred to us by, so Mike Allen referred to us this opportunity, and he's from Bombco. So you'll notice the next thing that we're here on the right, it's creating a log of every change that I make. So when I update, I created the opportunity, it was a log entry. When I changed my sales team from Latin America to North America, there was a log entry. You'll also notice that I, as the person who created the opportunity, am listed as the salesperson, but I could, and I'm not going to because I'll get an email if I do, I could attach somebody else as the lead salesperson for this particular opportunity. So let's say that I felt that Alexander had a good in with Acme. Maybe he knew someone, or John and him went to college together or something. I could pass the buck, so to speak, and say, hey, you can take this opportunity. The last thing I want to take a look at is tags while we're here. This is these for now are our practice areas. Now in the future we're going to develop in our own entries here for this kind of thing. But for now, just we'll say it's a source to pay opportunity. And the last thing we have is expected closing right now, because it's just possible. I don't know, have any idea what it's going to be for when the closing is going to be. So let's say that John and I have started talking, and I'm doing basic discovery on the project or the opportunity. Now that he's talking to me, we can move a couple of things. Now that we're in the prospect phase, we can go ahead and change probability up to 25%. And we notice as well that I moved the card over from possibles to prospect. I just drug it over. What I could also have done is, you see here, there's this sort of row of chevrons that represent all the different phases of our sales process. I can just click and move it over to prospect. Again, please note on the log over here on the screen, every one of these changes is being captured. This creates an audit trail in case you have a worry about what change happened when, or if you want to revert something or roll something back. You can see, let's say you're taking a look at one of your team members' opportunities and you notice a mistake. You can go ahead and figure out when they made that mistake and how to fix it. On smaller screens, this is going to look a bit different. So you notice that Odoo kind of smartly realigns itself based on how big the window is that it's operating from. So here on my big screen monitor, it does this. But when I minimize the window and it looks like maybe a smaller laptop, it starts to look like this. And so this log is still here. It's just below the opportunity. And if you were on a smartphone, it would look probably not too terribly dissimilar to something kind of like this, where it's just very narrow up and down card. But we're not worried about that for the purposes of this video. But I just wanted to show you that those windows are all still there. And if you can't see them, probably your best bet is to scroll down. Now, we do not want to be sending messages right now with Odoo. We'll get into how to integrate Odoo with Outlook in the future in another video. And then the next thing we want to take a look at is logging notes. So the system does this automatically when you make changes, but you can also enter a log note on your own, and you can click, save, and then it'll track that. When we move this opportunity over to proposal, this is when we start using a lot more of the functionality. So at this point in time, you're no longer just talking. There's actually work being done. And we're going to go ahead and continue to update that probability now at the proposal step to 50%. I don't know what the system is that Odoo is using to calculate these percentages, but for now we're using 0, 25, 50, and 100 to represent. 0 is a possible, there's no throughput. 25%, 50, and 100 once it's obviously a project. At that point in time, clearly you've won the gig. Now that we're in the proposal phase, we want to look at two other buttons in this opportunity card. So the first part is the priority, and that's the star system. We're not using this as priority. We're using this as sort of a benchmarker for where these opportunities are in the process. So for 1 star, that means you've got a drafted proposal, and 2 stars means that the proposal has been sent to the prospect, and then 3 stars is a bit redundant, but it would be if you won the gig, but then you would just move it over to projects. Additionally, we have this little paperclip up here, or you can just click on log note and it's the same thing. And so I would say here, please find the proposal at attached, and then I would attach a file of some kind or another. Let's just say I put that there. That's the file. And so now any other user can come in and look at your opportunity and then download this and take a look at that for themselves once I log it. So there's that. That's all saved up. If you wanted to schedule an activity, and this is where all these green bars on the CRM pipeline come from, you'll notice here that there's a lot of gray. There's 33 others with no activity scheduled for them. There are 4 planned activities. That's a green bar. The yellow bar is there are activities that are happening or scheduled today to occur. And those would be the ones with the little clock, a clock on them. And then there's a red bar indicating an event that should have occurred and just hasn't been updated in the system. Now, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means it's not in the system. All right, so let's go back to my pipeline and focus on our Roadrunner trap optimization. So I've worked the opportunity. I've drafted a proposal. I've sent the proposal out, and he either did or didn't like it. So We'll talk about what happens if they didn't like it, and that we can mark it as lost. Boom. We lost the reason because it was too expensive. He wanted to come down in price, and we couldn't make it profitable. And you'll notice here this creates a flag. Is the bid active? And it changes it to false. So now it's no longer an active bid, and you will no longer see it in your pipeline. It's still there though. So if we want to see our archived opportunities, we go over to filters, then we look for lost or archived. Either one of these will get you there, but for the purposes of this, especially because it's my pipeline, I want to look at my lost opportunity. Now we're still working on this, so it's not actually, we're going to restore it, and it's now back to being active. Now it's active true. All right, so moving our project here along at breakneck pace, we'll move it over to projects. Oh, we won it. So now it automatically flags the opportunity as 1. It bumps probability for you up to 100% because obviously you've won the opportunity. And now we're back to using the stars again for a new thing or a new metric that's measurable quickly. So 1 star, the work is actually done. 2 star, the invoice is being paid but isn't completely paid yet. And 3 stars is there are no more active invoices going out for that particular project. It's all good to go. You've gotten the money. And at that point in time, you can then move it over to paid, and now it's basically a closed opportunity. Now, the last thing in the opportunity card that we want to take a look at is, let's bring it back to proposal. Expected closing. This is when we think the gig, we're going to probably select the gig. You click on this, it gives you a date picker. Let's say we think we're going to win it on the 1st of September. And then that gives you a projected start date. But you can change this relatively easily. Now you'll notice here that there are a couple of things that you can't find on this screen, and that is a duration of project and then expected costs. Those are 2 pieces of data we'd like to capture that we currently can't capture on this screen, and without it, it becomes very hard for us to do a lot of the analysis we'd like to be doing. So it is not structured data, i.e. something we can't bring up in Excel, so it's not ideal for that, but we can type it here. Let's say it's going to cost $2,000 to do the job, but we expect to make $4,000. All right, so those are the updates, and you'll notice that it only updated the expected revenue, because that's the only thing that changed. This was nothing before, so it's now new, and this is not tracked. The internal nodes are not tracked up here in the log. So we go back to the pipeline, and it's no longer lost. We close that off, and boom, we have our Roadrunner optimization project. And then the cool thing about this is you move it around into all of these different columns. The dollar amount of these gigs, the dollar amount of these columns automatically or dynamically updates as you go. So here we have my Roadrunner optimization. It's part of the proposal bucket. It's a big bucket. Move it over here. You're probably not going to see anything because it's such a big bucket that it barely even registers. Okay. So we've taken a look at our all over the opportunity card, and we've shown you all the different things, all the pieces you need to fill out, the expected information we want to see in the internal notes, how to use the stars, where you can attach the opportunity or the proposal to the opportunity, and what you do with the various chevrons, or how you can drag things around on the pipeline. Now, for the purposes of this tutorial, this opportunity has served its purpose, but just to show off the action tab in general, you can accomplish a number of different actions up here in the actions pull down. Now I want to get rid of this. I want to archive it. Yes, I want to archive this record, and then I can come back for future tutorials to utilize this same record if I need to, but it won't throw off our numbers in the overall system, and it won't, I'm going to do the same thing with my test bed. It will not confuse the system. So yeah, now all of a sudden I don't have anything in my pipeline. So the next thing I want to show in this screen here is what to do if you don't want to see all of this. So the group by function is really wonderful unless you group by sales team, and you can see how active each of the different groupings are performing. So Middle East, Africa, Latin America, North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. These are our big sales groups. How active have they been? Now, in this particular video, North America and Asia Pacific are really pulling ahead of the pack, but they've had an extra week on everybody else to get rolling. So don't be too hard on them. Okay, the last thing I want to show is we've seen group by. Now, let's take a look at filters. Filters are kind of the same thing, but instead of organizing all of this data according to certain criteria, it filters out everything that does not meet that criteria. So earlier I did, here are the opportunities that were lost. Here are the opportunities that we have closed and won. Here's everything that's archived as an example. The custom filters let you do some cool things essentially with unique filters, and you can save them, I think, if you need to. So here's an example of one that I think would be useful. I would say let's filter by creation date, and then you can set a window. So let's say I want to see everything created between last Sunday, okay, and then today, or yesterday. Oh, that'll be fair. So it's August 16th at midnight through August 22nd at 11:59 p.m. All right, and we're good. And then that's all of the opportunities that were created in that window. So you've got the search, and if you want to share it or save it, you can save the current search, and that will give you an opportunity to give it a name. We'll go ahead and call this one last week. And we can share it with all users if you wanted. Again, this is an example, and a time-based search is only a limited utility beyond when you need it. So I'm not going to save it here, but you could. And that would just create a new saved search that I could just type in called last week. And it will be, off we go. Additionally, if you change when you're working, if you use a filter and then change it, there is kind of a log created or saved of all the filters you've run. So if you come down here to the filters and you go down to the very bottom here, just above the add custom filter, it'll save temporarily the filter you've created. However, that filter will not remain. So when you come back to symphony-advisors.odoo.com and you navigate back to the CRM app, that filter is gone. So it'll be saved when you've got your current active session open, but when you close the window, it goes away. So it's saved in temporary memory or a cache. All right. So thanks for joining me on this walkthrough of the CRM pipeline utility. I know the video's gone a little longer than last week's. And in conclusion, we talked about you should create your contact first before you make your opportunity. You should start with the company and then attach people to that company. You can move opportunity cards around on the Kanban board by just dragging and dropping them, or within the opportunity card, you can click on the chevron to place it in its appropriate 4P bucket. You should attach proposals in the log function or log note function within the opportunity card so that any user can get access to the proposal document. And on the main window there, you can use groups and filters to simplify your view, because if you have every region and every opportunity, it's a bit chaotic. Stay tuned. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and focus more on the reporting functionality within, and then we'll continue this series as long as we need to make sure we cover every piece of functionality that comes up or is important. Thanks again for stopping by. I'm Joe Pryor, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, happy Odooing.